and welcome to my video lecture series. Today we are going to continue where we left in the last lecture. Okay, last time we had started with applications of biotechnology and we had studied about healthcare biotechnology and agriculture, right? Today we are going to continue with the next applications, that is gene therapy, and after that we are going to start with genetically modified organisms. If you are watching this video and if you have yet not subscribed to my channel, kindly do subscribe and also press the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I upload any new video. Okay, so let us start with the next thing, that is called as gene therapy. Now gene therapy is the third application which is given in the book, that is after agriculture. Now what is the meaning of a gene? Okay, so gene is basically a segment of DNA. So suppose if I am drawing this DNA over here, right? This is a double stranded DNA, 5 prime to 3 prime, 3 prime to 5 prime, right? And suppose if I am talking about this portion of the gene, all right, then this portion, if I'm talking about this portion of the DNA, then this DNA can be called as a gene. So what is a gene? A gene is a part of a DNA. Okay, and what is the function of a gene? This gene then later on undergoes protein synthesis and it forms proteins. So I hope everybody knows that proteins are formed by processes which are called as transcription and translation. Okay, and via those processes the gene is responsible for the formation of a protein. So that is about the gene. Now what is the meaning of a gene therapy? So many of the disorders or the diseases which are there, okay, they are caused due to a defective gene or they are caused due to a missing gene. So gene therapy basically involves a process in which that defective gene is either replaced by a working gene or the missing gene is added into the genome of the organism, and because of that the disorder or the disease can be cured, and that is called as gene therapy. So insertion of proper working genes into an organism for rectifying the disease or disorder is called as gene therapy. So I hope that part is clear. Okay, now what are the diseases basically? So there are two types of diseases. I will write it down over here. Okay, now I'm going to label them into two types. Now the first type of diseases are the diseases which are basically caused by a single defective gene, and if you can correct that defective gene, then that disease or disorder will go away. So I'm going to write down over here, caused by a single defective, or I will write down over here missing gene. So that single missing gene or defective gene is responsible for causing the disease. Okay, so this is the first type of diseases. The second type of diseases, okay, that I am writing over here as type 2, they are caused by a defective gene along with some other environmental factors. So the defective gene itself is not only responsible for causing the disease, even the environmental factors are responsible for causing the disease. So I'm going to write down over here, caused by a defective gene plus environmental factors. Okay, so these are the two types of diseases. So if you have type 1 disease, it is very easy to rectify or repair that disease by inserting the proper working gene or by replacing the faulty gene or by addition of an extra gene, and that disease will be sorted. However, if you have a type 2 disease, then only adding a proper working gene is not going to solve the issue. Even the environmental factors are going to play a role. Now let us take the examples of both type 1 and type 2 diseases. Now examples of type 1 diseases, okay, which are basically caused by a single faulty gene, I will write down the examples over here. Okay, so some of the examples that I can remember are, there are many diseases, so I will write down example, cystic fibrosis, okay, then something called as phenylketonuria, which is PKU, then something called as alkaptonuria, okay, then something called as Huntington's, chorea, okay, then something called as thalassemia. So all these diseases which I am writing down over here, all these diseases are caused due to a defective single gene. Is this clear? There are many other diseases. For example, there is something called as muscular dystrophy, which I'm going to write down over here. Muscular dystrophy, okay. Then there is something called as sickle cell anemia. Then there is something called as SCID, severe combined immunodeficiency. Okay, so I have written down a lot of disorders over here. Even if you want, you can write down hemophilia. Okay, then I can also write down color blindness. So I have written down a lot of diseases over here, and all these diseases are caused by a single defective gene. So these are all type 1 diseases. Okay, now type 2 diseases are the diseases which are caused by defective gene as well as environmental factors. For example, if I write down over here, what should I write down? High blood pressure and high cholesterol are good examples. So I will write down, excuse me, high blood pressure, okay, and high cholesterol. So if I'm talking about these two disorders which I have written in orange, high blood pressure and high cholesterol, then please remember, see, some people do have genes, okay, which can contribute to high blood pressure and high cholesterol. However, they are not caused only by these genes, they are also caused by the environmental factors. For example, if that person who is already having a defective gene, if that person is not following a proper diet, if he is not maintaining a healthy weight, if he is not doing exercise, then there is a greater tendency for that person to suffer from the disease. However, if the person having the defective gene for both these diseases, if that person is leading a healthy lifestyle, then there is a less chance that he will suffer from the disease. So here the gene is only not responsible for the disorder, even the environmental factors are responsible. Okay, so please remember there are these two types of diseases, and type 1 diseases can be easily cured or rectified by using gene therapy. What is gene therapy? Gene therapy is basically replacing the defective gene which is causing the disease, or inserting a working gene inside the body of an organism, okay, or it can be inserting an additional gene which is not at all present in the genome of the organism, and that is called as gene therapy, and it is used to cure any disorder or disease which is caused by a gene. Is this clear? So I hope this part is clear. Now, how can we use gene therapy? In which ways can we use gene therapy? So I will write down certain examples where gene therapy can be used. So let me write down the heading. Okay, examples of gene therapy. Okay, so the first example of gene therapy is basically for replacing or inserting a defective or a missing gene. So I'm going to write it down over here. Replacing or inserting a defective slash missing gene. So this is when a particular gene is causing a disorder, so you replace it or you insert a working gene and that disease goes away. So this is one of the examples of gene therapy I have already told you. Then another example of gene therapy is basically insertion of genes which can stop the growth of tumors. So cancerous growths or tumors, they can also be suppressed by using some genes. So in people suffering from these disorders, genes can be inserted into their genome so that the tumor stops growing or the cancerous cells stop growing. So that is again an example of gene therapy. Then another example is insertion of genes which can revert cancer cells or the tumors into regular body cells. So please remember, the cancerous cells are nothing but the regular body cells which are growing abnormally, correct? And they are undergoing mitosis one after the other without stopping. So if there are certain genes, if you can add into the genome, then these cancerous cells or these tumor cells can be reconverted or they can be reverted back into normal body cells. So again, for the purpose of cancer treatment, gene therapy can be used. Okay, then other examples of gene therapy are vaccination. I'm going to write down. So I think I have already told you about this. So in vaccination, basically I have told you about recombinant DNA vaccines, where there is a protein, okay, which is released by the pathogen which causes the disease, and that protein is formed by a gene. So if you can find out that gene and if you can insert that gene into a cloning vector, and then that recombinant DNA, if that is inserted into plants or any host, then that suitable host will produce the same proteins, and those proteins, if we take them inside our body, then our body will produce antibodies against those proteins, and when a real pathogen enters the body will be ready. So I have told you about that. So how is it used in vaccination gene therapy? By insertion of viral or bacterial genes. So viral or bacterial genes which are slightly modified so that they cannot cause the disease, they can be used for formation of vaccines, and again by gene therapy they can be introduced into the host. So that is another example of gene therapy. Okay, there are still more examples which I'm going to write down. Then the next example of gene therapy is insertion of genes to stop the viral replication. Suppose if you are having a viral infection or a viral fever or any disease which is caused due to viruses in your body, and suppose if the viruses are multiplying or proliferating at a very high rate, then one of the ways in stopping these viruses is by inserting a gene which can basically stop the multiplying of viruses. So by using gene therapy, you can insert a gene into the genome of the organism and stop the replication or multiplication of viruses and thereby control the disorder. So that is another application. Similarly, another application which is there of gene therapy is insertion of gene to accelerate or reduce the rate of tissue growth. So see, in certain cases you need a body tissue to grow quickly, in certain cases you need a body tissue to grow at a lesser rate. Now this can be basically controlled by adding certain genes into the organism. So again, gene therapy can be used to accelerate or decelerate the growth rate of tissues or organs in the body. Okay, and finally the last application or the last example of gene therapy can be insertion of gene to heal a tissue or organ. So if you have a damaged tissue or organ, the healing process occurs on its own, but it takes a long time. However, if you add a favorable gene, then the healing process can accelerate and it can basically heal the wound at a much faster rate. So that is another application, or that is another example of gene therapy. So I have written these examples of gene therapy. This question can be asked: write down certain applications of gene therapy, or write down certain examples of gene therapy. So first is replacing or inserting a defective or missing gene in the genome. Second is insertion of genes which can stop the growth of tumors, correct? Then there are genes which can actually convert or revert the cancerous cells into regular body cells. That is the third example. Next is the gene therapy is used in vaccination to deliver the bacterial or viral gene into the body, which is helpful for formation of antibodies, right? Next is insertion of genes to stop the viral replication. The viruses will stop multiplying because of a particular gene. Then insertion of gene to accelerate or reduce the rate of tissue growth, and last is for healing of wounds. So I hope these applications or examples of gene therapy are clear. So the next part and the last part under gene therapy is going to be types of gene therapy. There are basically two types of gene therapy. So I'm going to write it down over here. Okay, and these types are, so types of gene therapy. Now there are two types of gene therapy, okay, and both the types basically involve different type of cells. So as you know, there are two different types of cells in our body. The first type is, they are called as gametes. They are haploid. They are having half the number of chromosomes. They are also called as germline cells, okay. And the second type of cells are the cells which are having diploid number of chromosomes, that is 46 chromosomes. They are called as somatic cells. So depending on where you are inserting that gene, in which cell you are inserting the gene therapy can be classified into two types, and those are, the first type is called as germ line gene therapy, okay, and the next type is called as somatic cell gene therapy, okay. So if you are inserting the desired gene to cure the disease into a gamete or into a reproductive cell, then the therapy is called as germ-line gene therapy. Germ cells are reproductive cells or gametes, whereas if you are introducing the gene into a regular body cell, then it is called as somatic cell gene therapy. Is that clear? Now first of all, let us start with germ-line gene therapy, okay. Now what is germ-line gene therapy? So I will write down over here, okay. Germ-line gene therapy basically involves insertion of the gene in sperm, ovum, egg, zygote. So all these cells, okay, all these germinal cells, in these cells when you insert a gene, then the gene therapy is called as germ-line gene therapy. Now what is the importance of this? The importance of this is, whenever you insert a gene in the germ cells, then that same gene is going to be carried forward in the next generation. So whatever changes it makes in the reproductive cells, those same changes will be seen in the new organism which is formed because of those reproductive cells or because of the gametes. So the changes are carried forward into the next generation. Please remember, because if you are making changes in the sperm, then that sperm is going to fertilize an ovum. So those same genes are going to enter into the zygote. Same thing is true for ovum. If you make changes into an ovum, then it is going to be fertilized by a sperm and it is going to form a zygote. So the changes are basically continuing into the next generation. That is the advantage of germ-line gene therapy, okay. So that is the thing. The disadvantage of germ-line gene therapy is germ-line gene therapy cannot be used for human beings. Why? Because technically it is not very easy to insert genes into germ cells in the case of human beings. And second is, even if we find a way of inserting genes into our gametes, it is not ethically or morally correct. Please remember this. Because just imagine, tomorrow we will create new genes and we will insert them into the gametes or into the embryo or into the zygote, and we will create human beings according to our requirement. Do you think this is morally or ethically correct? It is not. So that is why germline gene therapy is not used for human beings, at least as of now. It is used in the case of plants, other organisms, okay, but it is not used in the case of human beings. So I hope it is clear. So let me write down the pros or the advantages of germline gene therapy. Okay, so the advantages or the advantage is that changes are, so I will write down, changes due to the inserted gene are carried forward in the next generation. This is the advantage. Whatever changes are occurring because of the inserted gene, they are carried forward in the next generation, because these cells are germinal cells. They are going to form the next generation. Okay, and what is the con or what is the disadvantage over here? So the disadvantage, let me write down. Disadvantage in the case of germline gene therapy is cannot be used for humans. What are the reasons? Okay, because of technical and ethical reasons. Is this clear? Okay, so this is about germline gene therapy. I've written down all the points which are important over here, so that should be clear. Now let us move on to the next type of gene therapy, which is called as somatic cell gene therapy. What is the meaning of somatic cell gene therapy? When you insert or replace a gene inside a somatic cell or a normal body cell having 46 chromosomes, then the therapy is called as somatic cell gene therapy. Is this clear? Okay, now can you give me examples of somatic cells? So there are many somatic cells in the body. Okay, all the cells in the body except the gametes, they are called somatic cells. So cells of your digestive system, nervous system, okay, cells of your respiratory system, blood, okay, then the vessels which are carrying the blood, all the cells of the body except the gametes, they are called as somatic cells. So if you insert the gene into any of these cells, then it is called as somatic cell gene therapy. Now somatic cell gene therapy is very important. Why is it important? Because it can cure defective gene related disorders. So most of the disorders that I had told you earlier, okay, most of the disorders that are caused due to a single defective gene, all those examples which I told you, so severe combined immunodeficiency, right? So let us just scroll up so that we can see the examples here. All these examples: cystic fibrosis, phenylketonuria, alkaptonuria, Huntington's chorea, thalassemia, muscular dystrophy, sickle cell anemia, SCID, which is severe combined immunodeficiency, hemophilia, color blindness. All these disorders, they can be basically rectified by using somatic cell gene therapy, because you can insert the proper working gene or you can replace a defective gene in the somatic cell. So that is why it is very important, and this can be used in humans. It is not unethical, please remember. So somatic cell gene therapy plays a very important role in finding out cures for most of the single gene related disorders. Is this clear? So that ends our part on gene therapy. This is the third application under biotechnology given in your book. So what are the important points that you have to remember over here? First of all, you have to remember what is gene therapy. Okay, gene therapy is basically when you are replacing a defective gene, or if you are inserting a missing gene in the body, and because of that defective or missing gene, a disease is being caused. So you are trying to cut down or you are trying to cure that disease. So that is called as gene therapy. Now I have told you there are basically two types of diseases. Some diseases are only dependent on the genetic factor. Genetic factor means that they are only dependent on the gene, so that particular gene is causing that disease. Whereas the other types of diseases, they are caused by the gene and also by the environmental factor. Examples of diseases caused by a single gene, I have already given the list over here, so you can have a look at them, right? Whereas the example of diseases which are caused by gene and the environmental factors are, so you can even add obesity to this list. So high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, all these diseases, they are caused by defective gene and also because of environmental factors. Okay, then after that we have studied applications of gene therapy or examples of gene therapy. Okay, I have given you the list, so you can go through that if you want again. And finally we concluded with types of gene therapy. There is germline gene therapy, where the required gene is inserted into the germ cells or the germinal cells or the gametes. These cells are having 23 chromosomes only, they are formed by meiosis. Whereas in somatic cell gene therapy, you insert the gene into a proper diploid body cell, which is any cell apart from gametes. And somatic cell gene therapy can be used to cure many diseases, whereas germline gene therapy cannot be used in the case of humans for ethical and technical reasons. Is this clear? So now let us move on to the last last application for our today's part, and that is going to be something which is called as GMOs. Okay, what is the meaning of GMOs? So let me write down. This is the fourth application of biotechnology, and that is going to be genetically modified organisms. Let me write down the full form over here. Genetically modified organisms. Now what are genetically modified organisms? Very simple. If you insert a foreign gene inside any organism, then that organism becomes a genetically modified organism. So how will you define GMOs? Okay, a GMO is any organism which has a foreign gene inserted into its genome. For example, if I take a gene which is normally not present in E. coli and I insert it into E. coli using a vector, then that E. coli is now called as a genetically modified organism or a genetically modified E. coli. Or suppose if I introduce a foreign gene into any of the plants, then that plant becomes a genetically modified plant. If I introduce a foreign gene into any animal, then that becomes a genetically modified animal. So all these organisms wherein you are inserting a foreign gene which is not naturally present inside that organism is called as genetically modified organism. Okay, these are also called as transgenic organisms. Please remember this term. So if you have inserted a gene into plant, then it is called as transgenic plant. Transgenic means transfer of a foreign gene into a plant. Or transgenic animals, where you are transferring a foreign gene into a animal. Okay, is this clear? So I hope the meaning of genetically modified organisms or transgenic organisms, that is clear. Now, first of all, why are these genetically modified organisms used? So let us take the example of plants first. So the plants have played a very important role in agriculture and also for other purposes. So what happens is, when you are basically practicing agriculture, you need pesticides, you need herbicides, okay, you need plants which have high productivity, and using natural plant breeding methods, it is very difficult to actually achieve these goals. By using genetically modified plants, you can actually use recombinant DNA technology and produce plants which are naturally disease resistant or which are naturally pest resistant. I think I have given you the example of Bt toxin, okay, Crygene, okay, Bt crops, Bt brinjal, Bt cotton. Now these plants have got that gene of Bacillus thuringiensis inserted inside them, which forms the protein, and that protein, when the pest eats, it dies. So that is an example of a pest resistant plant produced by recombinant DNA technology. So that is a genetically modified organism. Similarly, there are disease resistant plants because of which they do not catch those diseases. There are high productive varieties of plants which have very large vegetables or fruits. Okay, so using biotechnology, you can create these organisms according to your wish. Okay, I can give you another example in the case of animals. Okay, there is a fish called as salmon. Now what they do is they add an additional gene inside salmon, so the size of the salmon increases, the muscle content of the salmon increases, so the protein increases. So that is again a genetically modified organisms. Or addition of genes inside cows so that their milk productivity increases. All these are examples of genetically modified organisms. So I hope you understand why these genetically modified organisms are used. Now, what does genetically modified organism mean? Is it useful or is it harmful or is it both? So basically all these companies, all these biotechnology companies, they basically state that if you are using genetically modified organisms, then you will get a higher yield. For example, if you are using a transgenic plant, then its yield will be much more. That is the first thing. Second, they state that the nutrition quantity of that transgenic plant will be much more. And third thing that they state is that these plants can basically grow in drought conditions. Okay, so I will write down these conditions over here. Okay, so biotech companies state, what do they state? Basically they have these points. The first point is that the organisms are drought resistant. What is the meaning of drought resistance? Drought is when there is extreme scarcity of water. So in the case of plants, most of the plants would die in extreme scarcity of water, but the company state that if you have this transgenic plant wherein a gene is inserted into the plant, they can survive in very less water also. This is the first statement that they make. Second is that the yield of the organism increases. Okay, whatever you are getting, from the organism, okay, that yield is going to increase. For example, if you are using a transgenic animal, then the quality of meat or the amount of meat that will be increased. If you are using a plant, then the parts that are edible, that quantity will increase, so the yield goes up. And the third thing is that the productivity of the organism also increases. Okay, so these are the claims made by the different biotechnology companies which produces genetically modified organisms. However, up till now, with all the research that has been done, these claims are more or less false, because these changes do not happen much in genetically modified organisms. So if you are having a genetically modified organism, it is not going to be that it is going to require very less water to survive, or it is going to give you a high yield or high productivity. The difference in yield and productivity between normal organisms and genetically modified organisms is almost the same. Maybe GMOs will be having a slightly higher yield, but it is not vastly different as stated by these companies. So that is why there is an ongoing issue related to use of genetically modified organisms. Some sections of the society say that we should not be using genetically modified organisms because you are disrupting the natural genome of that organism. You are bringing in a foreign gene and you do not know how that is going to affect us in the long run. For example, if you are consuming plants, let us say the example of BT plants. Suppose if you are eating BT brinjal, then that BT brinjal basically produces that protein which kills insect. What if over the period of time that same protein begins to destroy our organ system also, or it begins to harm us? You don't know about that. So that is why the society is divided whether you want to use genetically modified organisms or you do not want to. Some people say that if this is going to improve the quality of the materials that we get, then we should use it. Some people are saying no, we should use natural things. So that is why genetically modified organisms right now, they are basically on an in-between path where they are accepted by certain parts of the society and not accepted by the remaining parts. So that is the situation now. Now under GMOs, we have to study transgenic plants, transgenic animals. Now in today's lecture, we are going to start with the first type of genetically modified organism, and that is going to be genetically modified plants. So I'm going to write down over here, the topic is going to be transgenic plants. Okay, and once we finish with transgenic plants, we will start with transgenic animals. Is this clear now? What are transgenic plants? Very simple. Okay, these are the plants in which a foreign gene has been inserted for economical purposes of man. Is this clear? Now, transgenic plants are very important from the agriculture point of view. Now, agriculture basically is a very important field for most of the areas or most of the countries. Okay, because agriculture basically provides human beings with food. Now, up till this genetically modified organism were formed, or until this biotechnology methods like recombinant DNA technology, they were discovered, how was agriculture being practiced? So agriculture was basically being practiced by using traditional methods of plant breeding. I will write it down over here. Traditional methods of plant breeding. What do you mean by traditional methods of plant breeding? So suppose if you want to grow a plant which is giving you a very high yield, and at the same time it is disease resistant or pest resistant, then what was the traditional method? It was very simple. So the plants, male plant and female plants, they were found out first of all. So one of the plants was a plant which was supposed to be naturally disease resistant, the other one was a plant which was supposed to have a high productivity. Then both of them were crossed. I hope you know what is the meaning of crossing, right? So one of them would be used as a male, the other one as a female. They would be crossed and they would give rise to a hybrid which would be having both the qualities of the parents, and that is how farming agriculture was being practiced. However, please remember, this traditional method of plant breeding, it is a very tedious method. Okay, what do you mean by tedious? Tedious means that it is a very effort consuming method. Okay, and it is a very difficult method to keep on practicing year after year, because it takes a lot of time to actually find out varieties of plants which you need to cross. So it takes a long time and it is very difficult, it is very laborious, please remember that. So what happens is, instead of that, with you, by using biotechnology or by using recombinant DNA technology, whatever characters you want, you just insert that gene into the plant and that plant will show those characters. So that is why usage of transgenic plants has become very important in agriculture. Okay, so by using transgenic plants, you can create varieties which are disease free varieties. Okay, so what are disease free varieties? Disease free varieties are basically, I will write down first, disease free varieties are basically plants which have got the foreign gene, because of which they are not going to suffer from that particular disease. That particular viral or bacterial disease is not going to spread in that plant. So these are called disease free varieties. Okay, then there are certain varieties which are called as pest free varieties. What are the pest free varieties of plants? So these varieties of plants are the ones which cannot be attacked by pests, or even if the pests attack them, then they will be killed. For example, BT plants, I have told you this, right? Then there are certain varieties of plants which are high yielding varieties. Okay, so these are the plants whose yield is much higher than the normal plants. For example, if you have a look at some of the vegetables that you get in the market in these days, then the size of the vegetables or fruits has increased considerably. How is that possible? That is possible by using plant hormones, and it is also possible by using biotechnology or recombinant DNA technology. Please remember this. So by using this transgenic plants, you can basically get all the characters that you want in the plant easily by inserting that particular gene. You can even get a mixture of characters. If you want a plant which is disease resistant and high yielding, you insert two genes. So depending on which characters you want, you insert those genes, and those genes, if they are successfully inserted into the genome of the plant, they will show the effect. So these are not as tedious as the traditional plant breeding method, where you have to choose one plant as the male, other one as the female, then you breed, then you sow the seeds of the hybrid and you get a new plant. So that is much more tedious, much more laborious, but this usage of transgenic plants saves a lot of energy. So that is why transgenic plants play a very important part in agriculture. Is this clear? Okay, another example which we are going to learn later is you can actually increase the nutritive content of plants by using transgenic, by inserting a foreign gene. For example, if you must have heard of golden rice. What is golden rice? So golden rice is basically a transgenic plant in which a gene has been added into the rice so that the vitamin A content of the rice increases. So this rice has been made for people who are suffering from vitamin A deficiency, and that is goldenish in color. That is why it is called golden rice. So you can actually prepare plants and also increase the nutritional content by adding genes. So that is how agriculture actually is dependent on biotechnology to some extent. Okay, so that is about transgenic plants. Now another use of transgenic plants is that these plants can be used as bioreactors. Let me write this down. Okay, I will rub this part off, or I will keep it. Okay, transgenic plants as bioreactors. Now what do you mean by bioreactors? First of all, so okay, if you want a certain product, okay, and if you can create that product inside an organism, for example, if I want to produce a particular protein inside E. coli, then I will insert that particular gene into E. coli, and through protein synthesis, E. coli will produce that protein which I want, and I will remove that protein. So here I am using that E. coli as a host, or I am using it as a bioreactor. Or if I want to produce oral vaccines or edible vaccines, I am basically inserting the required gene and the cloning vector into the host plant. That host plant is producing proteins. That plant, when I eat, I am getting the protein. So I am using that plant as a bioreactor. What is a bioreactor? Bioreactor is basically using a living organism to produce products that you need. Okay, so that is called as a bioreactor. It can be any animal, it can be any plant, it can be any organism. Now how can you use plants as bioreactors? So you can get many commercially important substances from plants. For example, you can basically insert genes inside plants so that they can produce certain things called as interferons. Let me write down the things first, then I will explain them. Okay, so you can get things such as interferons from plant. You can add genes inside the plant so that those genes will form proteins, and those proteins can be used as oral vaccines. So let me write down over here, oral vaccines. Similarly, you can even use genes, and those genes will be responsible for the formation of antibodies. Okay, so I will write down over here, formation of antibodies, or formation of I can say vitamins, or formation of drugs. So all these products you can actually produce in a plant by inserting the required gene. So here you are not using the plant as a source of nourishment or as a source of nutrition, but you are using it to produce something else. You are using that plant as a factory. Are you getting this? all these products like interferon. Now what are interferons? So interferons are basically chemicals which are released inside our body whenever a virus enters our body. So whenever a foreign virus, suppose influenza virus, enters our body, then the body releases these chemical signals which are called as interferons, and it is the job of interferons to alert the immune system that a foreign virus has entered. So these interferons you can also produce in plants. So you are using plants as a bioreactor or as a factory. Oral vaccines we have already discussed. Formation of antibiotics by inserting suitable genes, vitamins, drugs, many other things, they can be formed inside plants by using biotechnology. So you can also use transgenic plants as bioreactors. So that ends our part on transgenic plants. The next part is going to be advantages of transgenic plants. Okay, that I am not going to cover in this lecture. I am going to cover in the next lecture. That is going to be a very important part. Advantages of using transgenic plants. Okay, so what have we covered in this part of genetically modified organism? First of all, we have talked about what are genetically modified organisms. These are the organisms in which a foreign gene has been inserted. Okay, so there are genetically modified animals which are transgenic animals, similarly transgenic plants, transgenic organisms. Okay, why do we create these transgenic organisms? So that they are commercially usable. Okay, we can commercially benefit from these things. That is why we are creating these genetically modified organisms. Are they accepted all throughout the society? No. Some sections of society say that you are basically going against the natural law of nature. You are basically disrupting the genome which is naturally present in the organism, and that can cause a harm to the human being. Some parts of society say that okay, you are basically putting in less efforts and getting the products that you want, so they are useful. So the society is divided. Then coming to transgenic plants. Okay, so transgenic plants have a slight advantage over traditional methods of agriculture because you don't have to put in as much efforts as you need to put in traditional plant breeding methods. Okay, you just put the desired gene and whatever you want you will get. Disease resistance you can get, pest resistance you can get, high productivity you can get. All these things you can get by inserting the required gene instead of going and finding proper plants to hybridize and give rise to the new offspring. So is that clear? Next is the use of transgenic plants as a bioreactor. What is a bioreactor? Bioreactor means using the organism as a factory to produce certain products. Okay, so which products you can get by using transgenic plants as bioreactors? I have written down over here: interferons, vaccines, antibodies, vitamins, drugs, etc. So that ends this part of transgenic plants. Okay, we are currently studying genetically modified organisms. In that we have started with transgenic plants. The next part is going to be a continuation of this, and it is going to be advantages of transgenic plants. So that ends our today's lecture. If you like the lecture, please put in a thumbs up. Also comment, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, press the bell icon, and do share my channel link and my videos with your friends. Thanks a lot.